Hopefully I don't dox myself by saying this, but I'm a graffiti artist, or as some might call it, a delinquent. I don't mind either term. Call it vandalism, call it art. I just like the hiss of a spray can and the rush that comes from leaving a mark no one else dares to. But here's something most people don't realize. The tagging community is toxic. Everyone thinks they're a king and nobody respects anyone else's work. You paint a clean wall and some other guy ruins it the next day with a sloppy tag. So I stopped chasing clout. I started looking for quiet spots, old train lines, decommissioned cars, bridges that never see daylight. That's how the trouble started. My friend Lucas comes with me sometimes. He's not a tagger. He just likes the thrill, the weird calm of being somewhere you're not supposed to be. He's also a stoner, so he usually brings a couple joints. I'm not big into weed. It makes my heart race. But sometimes, I'll take a few hits just to vibe with him. It was early summer, a little past 10 p.m., when we found a stretch of rusted tracks outside Los Angeles, tucked behind an industrial lot that looked long forgotten. I'd found it earlier on Google Maps, one of those ghost lines that just disappear into overgrown weeds. When we got there, it was perfect. The cars were lined up like a metal graveyard, still, silent, and unmarked. Not a single tag anywhere. Fresh canvas, I said, already reaching for my backpack. Lucas grinned, exhaling a thin ribbon of smoke. You're obsessed, bro. Maybe, I said. But you'll thank me when I blow up and this ends up in a documentary. He laughed and passed me the joint. The night was thick, quiet except for the low hum of the city miles away. Crickets, the distant groan of metal cooling in the night air. I took a few pulls, felt that nervous warmth crawl up my chest, then got to work. The hiss of the can filled the silence. 1 tag, 2, 3. The train's metal was smooth and cold beneath the paint. Every now and then, I'd stop to admire my work, bold, angular, layered. Abyss, that was my name. 15 minutes later, I was feeling good, buzzed, proud. I tossed the empty cans back toward the start of the line and watched them clatter and bounce. Down the gravel, that's when I heard it. A metallic clang, sharp, hollow, echoed through the night. I froze mid-step. Lucas stopped too, joint halfway to his lips. You heard that, right? I whispered. He nodded slowly, his eyes wide. It sounded like someone had picked up one of my cans and thrown it against the train car.
The sound rolled through the air, then died.
We waited. Nothing. I pulled out my phone, flipped on the flashlight, and pointed it down the line. The beam cut through the darkness, landing on the rusted cars. Nothing moved. Then from the shadows came a faint voice. You better not trip, boy. It was low, rough, male, and then bang. A gunshot split the air.
Run, I yelled.
We bolted. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might burst. Lucas nearly tripped on the gravel, but I yanked him forward. Both of us sprinting down the tracks toward the streetlights in the distance. Another shout echoed behind us, followed by the sound of footsteps pounding metal. We didn't look back. When we finally reached the road, we dove behind a row of bushes, gasping for air. The silence that followed was deafening, only the distant hum of traffic and our own ragged breathing. We didn't say a word on the drive home. What was I supposed to tell the cops? Hey, someone tried to shoot me while I was illegally defacing property. Yeah, right. A metallic clang, sharp, hollow, echoed through the night. I froze mid-step. Lucas stopped too, joint halfway to his lips. You heard that, right? I whispered. He nodded slowly, his eyes wide. It sounded like someone had picked up one of my cans and thrown it against the train car.
The sound rolled through the air, then died.
We waited. Nothing. I pulled out my phone, flipped on the flashlight, and pointed it down the line. The beam cut through the darkness, landing on the rusted cars. Nothing moved. Then from the shadows came a faint voice. You better not trip, boy. It was low, rough, male, and then bang. A gunshot split the air.
Run, I yelled.
We bolted. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might burst. Lucas nearly tripped on the gravel, but I yanked him forward. Both of us sprinting down the tracks toward the streetlights in the distance. Another shout echoed behind us, followed by the sound of footsteps pounding metal. We didn't look back. When we finally reached the road, we dove behind a row of bushes, gasping for air. The silence that followed was deafening, only the distant hum of traffic and our own ragged breathing. We didn't say a word on the drive home. What was I supposed to tell the cops? Hey, someone tried to shoot me while I was illegally defacing property. Yeah, right. 2 weeks later, I told myself I wouldn't go back. But curiosity eats at you. So 2 weeks later I did. This time, I went during the day, and this time, I brought my Glock 17. The tracks were the same, but something was different. The sunlight revealed details that the darkness had hidden before. Boot prints in the dirt, cigarette butts, old beer cans, and my tags, gone. Each one had been covered with a sloppy smear of thick red paint, blood red. Someone had deliberately erased me. A chill ran through me. I followed the line of cars until I found one with its sliding door half open. I peeked inside, empty, except for one chair. A single metal chair bolted to the center of the floor. Ropes coiled around its legs, chains scattered nearby. The floor gleamed wetly as if it had been scrubbed. The smell hit me next. Bleach, overpowering. I gagged, pulling my shirt over my face. The entire car reeked like a freshly cleaned crime scene. I pulled out my phone to snap a photo, proof that I wasn't crazy, but froze when I heard it again, clang. This time, closer. I didn't wait to see who or what it was. I backed out, gun in hand, scanning the line. The sunlight caught on something, reflected further down the tracks, something metallic, moving. I didn't stick around to find out. A summer later, by the time July rolled around, I was back home for a week before flying to Germany for study abroad. I tried not to think about the train, about the voice, about that chair, but on my last day, boredom got the better of me. There was another set of tracks nearby, the ones my friends and I used to train hop on in high school. It would be nostalgic, I thought. One last ride before I left, so I went, alone. The tracks cut through thick trees before disappearing into a long tunnel, then stretched over a massive bridge. I figured I'd hop on a slow-moving train, ride it through the tunnel, and jump off before the bridge. I waited for nearly 10 minutes before I felt the rails start to vibrate. The train appeared, rumbling closer, sunlight flashing off its sides. I jogged alongside it, grabbed a ladder, and hauled myself up like old times. Adrenaline surged. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Then as the train entered the tunnel, a strange flash of light flickered ahead. Oh, like a spark. I frowned, trying to make sense of it. Maybe a short circuit? Maybe just friction. But then, a hand shot out from the darkness and grabbed my leg. I screamed and kicked, nearly slipping off the ladder. My heart slammed in my chest. Another hand reached out, slapping against my calf. I scrambled up onto the platform at the top of the ladder, clinging to the metal until we burst out of the tunnel into sunlight. Without thinking, I jumped off the moving train, hit the ground, and rolled. My palms were bleeding, knees scraped raw. The train chugged on toward the bridge. I stood there shaking, staring at the tunnel.
Someone was in there.
2 people, and they had tried to pull me down. I sat in the clearing for what felt like forever. The sound of cicadas buzzing in my ears. My car was back on the other side of that tunnel. There was no other way back. No bridge, no detour. Just darkness. I picked up a rock and gripped it tight. Halfway through, I heard it again, a clicking sound. Like someone snapping their tongue. Click, click, click. I froze. You better stay back, I shouted. I'm armed. Silence, and then a low laugh. I fumbled for my phone, turned up the volume, and played a gunshot sound effect from YouTube. The echo thundered down the tunnel, bouncing off the concrete. For a moment, nothing. Then faintly, the sound of footsteps running. I sprinted. Didn't look back.
Didn't breathe.
When I burst into daylight, I turned once more toward the tunnel. 2 silhouettes stood in the dark, side by side, watching me. A shriek followed, a sound that wasn't quite human, and I ran. The subway. That was the end of my train adventures. Or it should have been. Months later, I moved to New York for a graphic design internship. I didn't think much about trains anymore until I met a guy named Marcus. He was an MTA worker, maintenance crew. We were drinking one night when he said something that made my blood run cold. You ever hear of the track people?
I laughed it off. What, like mole people?
He didn't smile. We call them that because we don't know what else to call them. You hear things down there sometimes. Clanging. Voices. Always. Near the old sections, places that haven't been used in decades. My stomach dropped. He told me about a night 2 years earlier, when he'd been cleaning High Street Station in Brooklyn. The platform was empty, completely silent, until he heard a child's voice calling for help from inside the tunnel. He went down, flashlight in hand, thinking maybe a kid had wandered off the platform. Then he saw 2 shadows, one small, one tall. He backed away, but the child called out again. "Wait! Where are you going?" He ran to the surface and called the cops. They searched the tunnel for hours, found only a single shoe and something else. Marcus looked at me across the table, his eyes hollow. They said the floor smelled like bleach.
I didn't say a word.
Because I already knew that smell. Epilogue. Sometimes, late at night, I can still hear that gunshot in my dreams. Other times it's the clicking.
Or that voice saying, "You better not trip, boy."
I stopped painting trains, but whenever I pass one, rusted, empty, abandoned, I can't help but wonder if someone's inside, waiting.